Today, marketing's influence and responsibilities are ever growing. For marketers, it can often feel like just as one challenge is overcome, another one surfaces. To address these challenges and achieve success, marketers need smart and powerful marketing automation technology that integrates with their organization's CRM. For Microsoft Dynamics users, that technology comes from ClickDimensions. Made exclusively for and natively built in Microsoft Dynamics, ClickDimensions is the marketing cloud for Microsoft Dynamics. Learn more at clickdimensions.com.
Please welcome our next speaker, Heidi Neuhauser, a Director of CRM Projects. Today she will be presenting Dynamics 365 CRM System Administrator How-To Guide. Please stick around after Heidi's session for a live Q&A.
Hi everybody, thank you so much for joining my session, and thank you DynamicsCon for giving me the opportunity to speak to all of you fantastic Dynamics 365 system administrators. Today we are going to focus on Dynamics 365 and teach you some how-tos that you might want to use as a system administrator. I have my contact information here. If you want to continue the conversation beyond the session, I'm happy to do that. And please note, you have the chat available to you. I'll be monitoring that chat throughout this entire hour that we're together, and I'll be answering your questions as you ask them in there. So feel free to use it. We'll make it as interactive as we can in this virtual environment. So let's review what we're going to talk about today. We've got a lot of stuff on the agenda, and I'm really excited to talk to you about this. The first thing we're going to talk about are some solution management best practices. Then we're going to talk about the Power Apps Maker portal versus Classic Solution Designer. Today, there's a lot of things you might want to do, and you might need to go to two different environments to do it. So we'll review that briefly. Then we're going to dive into our how-tos. First, we're going to talk about system views, how to modify existing views, as well as how to create new ones. Then we move into columns or fields, how to modify existing and how to create new. And I'll show you some of the new field types available. Then we're going to do some standard system admin tasks that I think are not as well known. So search, how do you add fields or columns to a search? We'll go through that. And then we're going to move on to global search. We're going to talk about two things, how to modify the fields that are shown to you within global search and how to add or remove entities or tables to your search. Then we're going to walk through how to add a custom entity in your Dynamics 365 app for Outlook. And finally, we're going to wrap up with how to add a calendar control to a view. So like I said, we're going to get started with just a quick refresher. You might have noticed that Dynamics 365 and Microsoft has changed some of its language. And I'm going to be referring to it in both ways, just to be very clear. But entity has become a table, so you're going to start to see that in your solution design or more. Field has become column. Records are rows. And then I've included a couple field type names that have changed that we are going to see today. Your option set or pick list is now called a choice, and your two options is now called a yes/no field. So just a super quick refresher of the new terms that you're going to see if you haven't seen them yet in Power Apps. So here's our first how-to. Use good solution management. So what is good solution management? Well, simply, here are three things you should do. Number one, use at least two environments. Make sure you have a Sandbox in production. If you're paying for Dynamics 365 online, you get a free Sandbox and you should use it. Number two, in the purple box, use solutions and patches and use your own publisher. And third, in the green box here, make sure you have your users in your system and they test and they verify your changes in Sandbox. Always good to get the user perspective because you're a system administrator, which means you have global permissions, and it's really hard to understand what they can see with their limited permissions. So don't do this. Don't make changes live in your production environment. I know it's tempting. It's a quick win. You can bang it out in 5 seconds, but it can wreak havoc in your environment in the long run if you start down that path. Number two, don't make changes directly in your default solution file. Again, I've seen this really destroy some environments. It seems simple at first. Just go to settings, customize the system, and make it directly there. publish your changes, but you can't test it that way. And then it gets really stuck in your solution, and it makes it really hard to diagnose what went wrong if something goes wrong. Don't use the new publisher. As a general best practice, you should set up your own publisher. You'll notice if you work with a partner, your partners will use that unique publisher to them. At least your good partners will. And finally, don't make changes with only you testing the system. Don't do those things. So like we said before, if you are the only one testing your system, you won't have a good representation of what your users will see. So it might work for you because you have global permissions, but your change might not be visible to others. So I know we sped through solution management. I wanted to spend a lot of time on this, but we don't have enough time to get through all of our content today. So if you're new to solution management, if you are doing these things we just talked about not doing, please add some comments, ask me your questions. I will happily answer them throughout this chat, and reach out to me afterwards, maybe in a breakout room, or we could have a one-on-one meeting that we can schedule and go over it. I'm more than happy to help you learn how to go from these don't do this parts to the do this parts. Okay, so this is fun. This is very timely. If you are a Dynamics 365 online customer, you have two places you can implement your changes and make your configuration updates. You have the Power Apps Maker Portal, which is where you're supposed to go, right? Based on what Microsoft tells us. You also have access to the Classic Solution Designer. Those of you who are on premise are most likely using Classic Solution Designer. Now, the fun part here is you have to use both environments right now. We're kind of in this hybrid stage where we're moving towards the Maker Portal, but it can't quite do everything you want it to do. So I thought it would be helpful to give a very quick comparison, and I am going to read through this chart, but bear with me, we'll go quickly. So I have some standard system admin tasks, and I have them on the left-hand side here. In the center column is the Maker Portal experience, and on the right column is the Classic Solution Designer. So let's walk through these, and we're going to refer to this throughout the whole session. Form design. If you've been hesitant to really dive into the Maker Portal, the form designer might be the thing that gets you there, might make you really happy. It's very simple. It's a great user experience. It'll still work in Classic Solution Designer, but like I put here, it's less awesome. Now, system views. My goodness, superior controls and capabilities. And we're going to demo this in a few minutes, so I won't spend much time here. You can obviously still create and edit system views in the Classic Solution Designer, but again, it's less awesome. New fields and columns. It's simple in the Maker Portal. There are different options available to you only in the Maker Portal, and we'll look at those later. And all option sets are global option sets, which is great because it's a general best practice. You should build option sets or choices as global option sets. So by default, that's what they're created. Clearly, you can still add fields in the Classic, but it's less awesome. Adding to global option sets. This is one of the things I'm going to walk through when we talk about columns and fields. It's a little more complicated. There's another step, another click or two that you need to take in the Maker Portal, but Microsoft is moving that direction, so it's probably a good idea to get used to that. And again, I have here under Classic Solution Designer that it is easier, but Microsoft is really pushing us towards the Maker Portal. So it's a good practice to get used to it. Model-driven apps, it's going to take you to the Maker Portal no matter what you do. It will take you over to Power Apps, even if you're accessing it from Classic Solution Designer. So you can use either one for that. Business rules. Now, this is a really interesting one. So Power Apps and the Maker Portal is changing literally every day. So the things I'm talking about today are valid as of February 2021. They might not be in March. Some of these tasks are probably going to move from Classic to the Maker Portal. But as of today, it's a really interesting caveat with business rules. I can edit existing business rules in the Maker Portal, and it's very simple, slick, easy to use. But I can't add new business rules in Power Apps. I don't know why, but it's one of the things you're going to have to toggle back to your Classic Solution Designer to do. Custom controls. We could have a whole hour session about custom controls, and I hope there is, because if there is, I'll tune in. I love custom controls. It's the UI controls that help visualize your data in different ways. Things like a star control or an autocomplete, website preview, a lot of linear gauges and things like that. Some are available in Power Apps. Some are only available in Classic Solution Designer. And this is another thing that's changing literally weekly. Field security. If you are enabling field security on an entity and on fields, you have to do that in Classic Solution Designer. Today, you can't use Power Apps. Editing relationships. I'm anticipating this one is going to be more well thought out in the Maker Portal soon, because you used to not be able to do anything on relationships. And these are entity or table relationships in Dynamics. Now you can, but it's very limited. It's better today in Classic Solution Designer. But again, this is one of those areas I think the Maker Portal is really going to beef up a little bit. I feel weird saying things like beef up because I've been a vegetarian for 25 years, but it works. Anyway, field level mapping. I love field level mapping. If we're talking about increasing user adoption with simple configuration tools available to you as a system administrator, field level mapping is a huge win. It's something that's applied on the relationship. So naturally, you can't do that in the Maker Portal. You have to go to Classic Solution Designer. Auto numbering, I'm going to show you this in a little bit. You can have an out-of-the-box column or field type called auto number in the Maker Portal. It's so easy to configure. You can do this in Classic Solution Designer, but you'll need to use a tool like the XRM Toolbox or a custom code. So I'm a big fan of any out-of-the-box configuration over custom code. So this is a big win on the Maker Portal side. And then changing the order of choice fields or option sets. I ran into this because I was trying to do this in the Maker Portal, and I couldn't understand why I couldn't. It's one of the limitations today. So if you need to change option A, C, and B to A, B, and C, you have to toggle over to Classic. So these are not exhaustive lists, by the way. These are the things that I have encountered while administering my own dynamic system and while implementing other dynamic systems for some of our customers. So let's talk a little bit about some features only available in the Power Apps Maker Portal. These are things like the Solution Checker. The Solution Checker is a fantastic tool. Before I export my zip file of my solution from my Sandbox, before I import it into my production environment, I click one button and I run a Solution Checker. And that's going to check if there's any compatibility issues or maybe any errors that might happen when I move it over before I move it over. So I don't have to wait for that bar to kind of turn green and then it tells me any errors I might have. I know before I even move it over to production. So that's a really nice feature. The next couple we're going to run through quickly. Manage Canvas apps, manage your scheduled and automated flows, manage custom connectors, and add to existing AI models. So this is starting to show you how the Power Apps Maker Portal is so much bigger than just our traditional CRM. It's not just sales, service, and marketing. It's really taking that and extending it out to the entire Power Platform, which is really exciting. And that's like the future of where we're going to go with this. Create auto number fields. We talked about that. Simple drag and drop to implement out-of-the-box custom controls. It's really easy to do that in Power Apps. Resize your view columns to any size and easy. No longer are you limited to 50 pixels, 100 pixels, 150 pixels. You can make it any size you want and you just drag and drop. And finally, you can sort views by more than 2 columns. And again, I have disclaimers all over the place here because this is as of today, which is February 11th, 2021. So now, features only available in Classic Solution Designer. If you want to implement any of these things, you're going to have to toggle back to the Classic Solution Designer. Creating new processes. We talked about business rules, but also if you have actions, business process flows, workflows, and you're creating new ones, you're going to have to go to Classic. You can edit existing, but you have to go to Classic to create new. Change the order of option set values, set a primary image on an entity, set audit settings at the entity level. I apologize, I'm saying entity, I should be saying table. Enable field security, show dependencies on any subcomponent. So that's a really handy thing to do if you need to remove a field or change it somehow. I love using that show dependencies button. It's only in Classic. Create a new email template, create a local option set. Like I said before, when you're adding something, a new choice field in Power Apps in the Maker Portal, it by default creates it as a global option set, which is great. Set colors for option sets, update values on a status reason field. That one surprised me. You'll have to go to Classic today and view level custom controls like the one we'll implement today. So I know that's a lot of information, but I think it's really, really important for what we're going to talk about today, which are our how-tos. Because like I said, we're in this weird hybrid scenario where some things are in Power Apps and some things are not. So let's dive in, have some fun. We're going to talk about this for a brief moment, and then we're going to move over into a demo environment. I'm going to show you how we can do this and some of the features. So how to work with system views. There are a number of things that you can do with a system view. You can add columns, you can remove columns, configure sorting, filter by, edit columns, and change your column width. Those are pretty much the big things that you're going to want to do. So I am going to come over into my demo environment. And here we are at make.powerapps.com. So if you haven't come to make.powerapps.com, welcome to the Maker portal. On the left-hand side, you're going to see all the different navigation points that you can get to. So we're going to go to solutions because you already know about solution management best practices. You're creating a solution, a container to put all your changes in your Sandbox environment. I will point out it's very important to select the proper environment, which is in the top right-hand corner. So I'm in Heidi demo. This is my environment. If I were actually implementing this in my system, I would select my QA, which is my Sandbox, to create it, then follow solution management best practices to export my solution file from Sandbox, and then import it into production. All right, so here's a list of my solutions, and clearly the one we're looking for is amazing demo solution file. So I'm going to click on this, and then that's going to open up all of the components in my solution file. And what we're going to do is play with some system views. So again, if you're used to the standard classic solution designer, I'm going to bring that up here for a second. You're used to this. So it's the same thing. It's just organized a little bit differently. Where we had our components down the left in your classic solution designer, we now have them right here in the center. So these are all of my tables. These are all of my entities and all of the assets that are included in this solution file. So I'm going to click on account, and then that's just going to open up everything that I currently have on the account table included in my solution file. As we're waiting for this to load, I'm going to give you a bonus best practice tip with solution management. Make sure that you only include the smallest amount of detail that you need in your solution file. For example, I have not added the entire table of the account. I don't have all of the columns, the views, the forms, and everything that goes along with it. I've only added the few things that I need to go. So now we're at the views area of our account table, and I'm going to open up active accounts. And this is going to load everything that creates this view. And remember, a system view is a way of filtering your database and displaying a sub portion of your data to the end users. So when this loads, we're going to have our entire form canvas out, and this is going to be where we can add and remove columns. This is where we can configure sorting, filter by, edit your columns, and then change the column width. So again, this is the Power Apps interface. This is the new Maker portal. And here we can see my column width is a little interesting. And I know I saw this all the time in my classic solution designer, where my field label here, like account number, is account num ... It's always kind of shortened, and that's not very helpful for my end users. So I would change that pixel width until it worked and publish and test it that way. So in Power Apps, it's really easy. If you hover over the little line, the divider between these columns, and click, you can simply just drag it around until you get to the point that you can read that label, which is really cool for a system administrator. And also you can see a preview of your data and change that column width accordingly. So if your account name is too wide and you just have a lot of white space, you can simply click and drag that. So this is what I think is a big win for system administrators, to really embrace the Power Apps and the Maker portal canvas, because the views are just so much easier to work with. So let's give you a little tour here. On the left-hand side are all available columns. Remember, those are fields. So it pre-checks this box, show only unused table columns. So this is A through Z, just like you'd see in Classic Solution Designer. One difference is your related tables or your related entities. That used to be at the bottom of Z. You just keep going. Now you just click related at the top here. And that's going to show you every table in Dynamics 365 that has a relationship, that has a connection to the table that you're on. And then you're simply able to expand that and select from anything you might need there. So I think that's a nice interface too. It's a lot easier to understand and use. So if we go to the right-hand panel, you can see the name of the view, active accounts. I can change that name simply by changing the name. Description is kind of your description for fellow system administrators. If someone's managing your environment and your solution files and you just want to update what it is, you can do that here. And sort by, remember I said one of the things you can do here is sort by more than one field. So we have 5 sorts configured, which is cool. And if you want to take something out, you just click the X and it goes away as a sort. And then if I keep scrolling down, that's where my filter by is. So if I need to change the filter, I can just use this filter by interface, click edit filters. And then this is actually going to look and feel a little bit different than what you're used to in Classic Solution Designer. It still works very similarly to your advanced find, but you can see it's a little bit different. You add row, you add groups, add related tables. That's related entities. This is a new row. And then you can group and group or just like you can. But that's where you would configure any changes to your filters. Now, when I'm creating a new system view and when I'm teaching new system administrators how to create a system view, I like to encourage them to start with an existing view that might already have some of the attributes you're looking for and save as and start with that. You can still do that here. There's a little caret next to save. You would save as and then give it a different name. I pick on Pennsylvania because that's where I live, and then make it active accounts in Pennsylvania, and then change your filter by. So it's still really, really simple to create a new system view using an existing system view as your base. So once that saves this to my table, I will have that new view and I can start to change it. So I'm going to publish my changes here, and then we're going to head back to Power Apps. And when my users are in Dynamics 365, after that change is published, this is kind of the front end, because I like to show what it's going to look like to your users. You'll go to Accounts, and then this will just be a new system view that's added to what's up there. All right, so let's come back to our slide deck. And again, if you have questions, I'm going to kind of go through these somewhat quickly because we have a lot to go through. But if you have questions about any of these things we're talking about right now, add comments and I'm happy to address them as they come in. Next, how to work with fields and columns. Add new fields, edit existing. We're going to talk about some field types and then talk a little bit about field level UI controls. So lots of exciting things you can do with columns and fields. So let's head back over to Power Apps. So we're back in our amazing demo solution file on the account table, and we are in the columns area. That's the first one you're going to get to. Now at the very top, you can add a new column. So this is how you would add a new field in the Maker portal. You're simply going to click that button, and then a column is going to open on the right-hand side. So your display name is obviously the name of the field. So we'll do favorite color. Power Apps is having a rough time today. There we go. All right, so it automatically creates my schema name. This is my database name. And then we have data type. So we'll go through this a little quickly so we can get through some of the fun stuff. So text fields. These are grouped much differently than our classic solution designer. We've got text, email, URL, phone number, all kinds of cool stuff. Auto number, which is fun. Then we come down to different number fields that you can select from, date and time or date only. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a choice field. Remember, that's an option set. Choices is your multi-select option set. I have lots of thoughts on the usefulness and maybe not usefulness of choices fields. So if you have questions about that, put that in the chat here. So this is where I said you have an extra step when you're configuring a choice field. So So these are existing choice fields. If I have an existing field that I want to use, I can do that, but I'm adding a new field. So for this, I'm going to select new choice. So that's your extra step here. We're creating this global option set or global choice field. And remember, you can't change the order of these options. If you want to change the order of your options, you're going to have to do that in your classic. So you can start adding your choices, as many as you want. And once you're done, we'll just do 3. We're adding green because that's my favorite color. All right, then we're going to click Save. And all we've done now is created that global choice set. And that's going to bring us back to that field that we were adding. So I think this is an important one to demo today because it is different. And here's your description, your tooltip. I'm a big fan of using tooltips. It helps your end users. If they're not sure what this field is used for, just type it in there and then they're going to be able to know exactly what it's used for. It's super simple for you to implement and super useful for your end users. So I'm going to click Save Table. And now we have added a new field, which is really cool. And I want to show you auto number 2, but I'm concerned I don't have enough time today. So I think what I'm going to do is open an existing auto number field that I've created, which is listed right here as account auto number, and show you what it looks like and how you can edit an existing field. So here we are in account auto number. In data type, under text, we had auto number. So that's where this was selected. You can always change your requirement level just like you could in the old one, if it's searchable or not. So here's where you configure what your auto number looks like. So here's my format, HN100-, and then I start doing it. If I need to change that, I would simply just make my changes here. If I need this like more digits, you can do that. And it's always going to show you a preview of what that auto number is going to look like. And then done. Look how easy that was to configure an auto number. I used to have to use XRM Toolbox or get someone much more technically minded than me to write some fancy JavaScript that's going to be put up on that table. So super cool stuff. I hope you think that's as exciting as I do. I get a little nerded out with some of the things you can do here. Okay, now we're going to move on to how to add fields to an entity search. So I love this. What does this mean? Well, you can use any out-of-the-box field or any custom field that you've created and allow the user to search by that specific data point. So things like phone number, email address, and then maybe favorite color if I wanted to search for that new field that we added. This is controlled by the Quick Find view. Quick Find view comes out of the box anytime you create a table or an entity. And it's really simple to make the change. How to do this? Well, it's a little bit different if you're on-premise or if you're online. For either one, you're going to have to add your quick view for that entity or that table to your solution file. And I'll show you what that looks like on the next slide here because I have some screenshots for you. If you're on premise, you're going to add in the view, you're going to use the Add Find Columns button in the common tasks box that you'll see. And if you're online, you're going to use the Find By. So let's show you what that looks like. On the left-hand side is what you'll use if you're online. On the right-hand side for on-premise. So once you've created that view and once you've added it to your solution file, you'll be able to use the Find By, again here highlighted on the left, and then the Add Find Columns on the right for on-premise. So let's take a quick look at that. We'll stick with our account since we're already in this table. And we're going to move over to Views. And you can see I've already taken the liberty of adding my Quick Find view. If I hadn't, I would use this button, Add Subcomponents, to select it from that table. So here we go in our Quick Find active accounts. So this is going to look almost identical to what we explored when we were checking out system views and how to make those changes. But on the right-hand side, there's going to be a new section that we didn't see because this is something that's only available for your quick finds. And this is Find By. So right now, if my users are on the account area of Dynamics 365 and they search in that table search, that entity search area, they can get their results by account name, number, email, all these phone numbers and all these emails. I would simply click Edit Find Table Columns to add additional ones here. So it's very, very easy to implement. And let me pop over to Classic and show you that real quickly. We'll use lead. So here we are in our Classic Solution Designer. And again, as a system administrator, you should be comfortable with using both interfaces for now. Let's go to Views. And that's going to load the views that I have. I'm pretty sure I've added that quick find on the lead as well, so we can implement it here. So here's our quick find. And if it's not in your solution file, you're going to click this button, Add Subcomponents, to navigate to it and add it. So let's expand this a little bit more so you can see it. And again, this is going to be in a different spot than what we just did. When you open up your Classic Solution Designer, we have this Common Tasks button. And we are going to use the Add Find columns. So again, you can see how this has a couple more steps. It's not as exciting to use as the Power Apps interface, but it still does the same thing. So what I don't like about this is I can't see what is currently used like we could in Power Apps, but you can scroll through and anything that's checked is currently used as a find column. So I could start to add more fields here. If I want email address, I can add all these in. Click OK, and then like everything else, save and close, and then publish your changes. Now, after you've done all that, you've made all of your changes, you do your, what we'll call alpha testing. The next really important thing is to hand this off to your users and make sure that it works the way that you intended it to. So now, how to change the fields in global search. So I think I'm going to start this off by showing you the user experience. So we're going to come over here into Dynamics 365. And this is, again, just a demo environment and it's in the Sales Hub. So as a user, I want to find everything that's like a datum. So we're going to click that global search magnifying glass in the top right-hand corner. And then I can start to search. All right. So when my search results show up, and I just did a couple letters because I want to show you a lot of data here, hopefully when this search finishes up. So here's the entities, the tables. We've got accounts, contacts, activities, and we've got a datum corporation here. We've got a phone number, and we've got dash, dash, dash. My contact, we've got Ava, and dash, 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 dash. So these aren't super helpful to my users, right? Like, okay, I have Ava. I can see her picture if she has a picture in here, and her name, but what in the world are these dashes? And I don't want this. I want to see your email address. I want to see your phone number. Or whatever requirements you have from your user groups. What do they need to see? What are the three most important things? And that's what you can control as a system administrator. So this, again, is controlled on that quick find view. So this view, which you might not have used before, has some really good uses for your end users. You getting excited about all this cool stuff? So you pick 3 fields that show up in results. And it's very simple. The first 3 columns in your quick find view are the 3 columns that you're going to have. So it's important to pick the right 3 and put them in the proper order for what you're expecting to see. So, we can actually come back in our all leads view just to show you how you're going to implement this on the on-premise side. And then we'll move over to Power Apps. All right. Hey, we're already in our quick find here. Great. So right now we've got account name, main phone, and email. Those are some pretty good fields. But let's say, for example, my users need to have the account number. So I'm going to click and drag that over, which again is one of the really cool things in the Power App interface. It's really simple to move things. It's a little simpler when it's not a demo environment and lagging and being slow. But whatever I have for my first, second, and third columns are going to be the 3 criteria which are returned on my search. So now my users will be able to enter the account number and it's going to pop up the right account, which is really cool. So I hope that is simple to understand, and apologies for the slow demo system for us. All right, so leads. We've got our topic, our name, and our company name. So this is a really great example because this is out of the box. This hasn't been changed. And if you haven't made any changes to your views, they're going to look a lot like this. So topic is not typically a very useful field that I've found. I've found email is a really good one for this. Company name or customer and a phone number are typically really good things that people are going to want to search by. So you would just move those over in the order that you want them to show up. And that's all you have to do. So another really simple thing that you can do as a system administrator or a system customizer, which can make a really big impact on your end user group. Now we're going to move over to something a little bit different in global search. How do I change entities or tables in my global search? So when I searched, you saw it only returned a few entities. And some of them maybe I don't need in there. Like if I'm just using Sales Hub, I probably don't need case to show up in there because my users aren't using case. So something really cool that you can do is change which entities or which tables show up in global search. You can also change the order in which they appear. Very important note, that's why it's got a green background here. This can only be implemented in the classic solution designer. So this is something that you'll have to navigate to your settings, go to your administration. From there, you're going to go to system settings, and it's going to bring you to this general tab, which is in the screenshot here. We're going to click that select button, which you see highlighted, and then select our entities by adding and removing. So before I show you where to do this, here are some things you need to know. You can have up to 10 tables or entities in your global search, and only 10, not 11. We won't let you. The order that selected entities appears, which is on the right-hand side of this screenshot, is going to be the order of results displayed in Dynamics 365. So again, that's really important to know. What's most important for your users to see? Put that at the very top so it displays on the left for them. This is also a change that will need to be made in each environment. So you'll have to do this in Sandbox, test it, make sure your users like it, and then you won't be able to move it over using a solution file. This is a database change, the data change. So you'll have to navigate over to production and make the identical changes. We're going to click the gear icon in the top right-hand corner. We're going to go to Advanced Settings. And then when this opens up, again, we're going to have to head over to our administration and make the changes there. From here, we're going to click System Settings, which opens up our new window. And we're going to have to scroll down until we get to the search section. And that's where we can select our entities. So that's right here. Click Select. And then using this old classic interface, we're going to have to use the little arrows to move everything over and up and down to get it to the right area that we need to. So I could take user away and remove it, add any custom fields I might have. Click OK, and then you're ready to rock and roll. All right, so I know we're running out of time. We're going to do some quick stuff here. How to apply a calendar control to a view. I have a great resource at the end that's going to walk you through this step by step with a blog. So I think we're just going to read through the slide quickly. Since this is a view level UI control, you need to implement it in your classic solution designer. Once your view has been added to the solution file, you're going to add custom control, calendar control version 2. That's a new version. Version 1 was deprecated very recently. So this new view looks and feels more like Outlook. Your users are going to love it. I'm going to move on to the next one because, again, that has great step-by-steps that I'm going to show you. How to add a custom table or entity to your Dynamics 365 app for Outlook. This is a pretty cool one, and I know most people have a custom entity. So I added one that's called DynamicsCon event. The two things you need to do are add your custom table or your entity to your solution file and make sure that activities are enabled. After those two things have been done, you're going to make sure you add the Dynamics 365 app for Outlook model-driven app to your solution. Open that up, and all you have to do is edit your sitemap. In your sitemap, you're going to have to add that new custom table, that entity that you want. Again, I have some notes on that. Sorry, I'm running through these quickly. So I'm not leaving you high and dry with just this session. Here are some great how-to resources. So you can have access to all of these. I will put all these links in the chat below so you have them. But these are some step-by-step information. So the two that we ran through quickly, we have information here. How to add fields to an entity search, everything we talked about here. Lots of great stuff. How to add your custom entity to the Dynamics app for Outlook. How to add color on option sets and the calendar control in Dynamics 365. So tons of great information, which I hope will help you. And I hope you'll be very empowered to go out and be awesome system admins. So here again is that nice step-by-step that's going to show you what you need to do. In most of these, I'll show you the differences for online and on-premise too. So hopefully that's helpful. Sorry, I ran out of time. I would love to answer any questions that you have about anything we covered today or anything else that you think you should know as a system administrator that you have questions on. Please join me in a live chat right after this. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining my session. I'm really excited to be live with you here. And I'd love to introduce you to my lovely moderator, my 9-year-old daughter, Kaylin. Kaylin, do you want to say hi?
Hello.
I'm trying to up the cuteness factor here. How'd I do? All right, Kaylin, I think we have a whole ton of questions. Do you want to maybe read something that you can see in there and we can answer it for them?
Do I just scroll up?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
You know what? Oh, did you find one? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's okay. Yeah, I'd be interested in your thoughts on select fields. Are they a pain in the butt later down in the road? Any data requirements to be aware of? That's from Tony Galata. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name.
Great. Okay. I saw that question pop up and I saw a lot of people like +1 that, like they wanted to. I definitely have thoughts on multi-select options. That's when Microsoft first rolled those out. My first instinct was, this is fantastic. Now I don't need to have like primary segment and secondary segment as 2 separate fields. My users can pick 2. And I implemented it. It was awesome until I needed to do anything with those fields. So there are quite a few limitations to multi-select option set. So a few that I can think of off the top of my mind, advanced find, you can't query them well at all. If you want to use them in workflows, it's extremely limited what you're able to do. If you have marketing automation integrated into your environment at all, you just want to steer clear because you can't segment based on those. You can't query it in anything. I knew Kaylin was going to get all the love here in the chat. So yeah, big pain in the butt, Tony. Unless you have a really compelling reason to put those in your system, I would steer clear of them for now. I hope they'll be improved over time, but they haven't been yet, and they've been out for a few years. All right, Kaylin, you want to find another question?
Yeah, this one is from Alice. I'm really bad.
Allison. No, you're great.
Bryden. What was the first version of CRM/SE that allowed you to add calendar control to a view?
That's an awesome question. And I know you're on 8.2. And I think it was 9.0, but I'm not entirely sure. Take a look and see if it's available to you when you click that custom controls. I hope it is. Let me know if it's there for you. And Kaylin, there's actually another question right before that from Allison. Do you want to read that one too? She's going to like this answer.
Wait. Does on-premises allow up to 10 entities for global search too?
Yes, they do. Which is awesome. That was a really easy one to answer. Fantastic. Kaylin, what else do you have? Do you see others in there?
Yes, someone called Chad. I'm not going to try to pronounce the last name because I know I'm going to mess it up. So they asked, isn't there an option somewhere to use Quick Find Review for search versus not?
I don't know, Chad. I didn't hear that. There might be, but I am unaware of that. If anyone knows that answer, feel free to throw it into the chat for Chad. Good question. I like when there's questions I don't know the answers to. All right, Kaylin, what's up next? if you go, I see one
Let's do
from.
another one from Chad that you put a spoiler to.
Oh, cool.
What are your thoughts on choices columns, Heidi? Can answer at the end, period.
Awesome. So, Chad, you're talking about choices, multi-select options? Is that right? The new lingo.
You said, great question. Happy to discuss this at the
I
Q&A.
sure did.
Spoiler,
That is a
it
good
works,
question.
but it's less awesome.
Yeah. So, like we talked about, yes, you can implement choices, but they're less awesome than not implementing choices. If you meant choice, singular, I'll just review that choice, not choices. So single, option set for the old lingo. They're fantastic in the new interface. I absolutely love that it creates global option sets by default, because as a best practice, as a system administrator or customizer, you should always be making global option sets, because chances are you're going to want to use that somewhere else. And it's nice to have the data linked together. What else we got, KK?
Kim Crawford asked, I was told to use unmanaged so that it can be modified after the fact. ... Is that correct?
Gosh, there's a massive ongoing debate that I don't think will ever end in the Microsoft community with that very question. So I've been working in Microsoft CRM technologies for 11 years, and I was on the user side for 10 before I moved over to the partner side. And I always used unmanaged because as a user, it was a heck of a lot easier. But if you look at any of the documentation, or if you want to pass any Microsoft certification exams, that's not the answer. What Microsoft says is you should use an unmanaged solution file if you're making changes to it, if you're in a dev environment or a test environment or a UAT, whatever you have, a non-production instance. And then you should be importing it as managed in your production environment. And you really should do that from a best practices standpoint. But I understand why you might be using unmanaged. It's a better habit to get into to use managed in production. Works, but less awesome. Kaylin, while you're looking up,
yeah.
I think there was one at the beginning. Now I'm trying to go back to it.
I found one. It's Karen Wong. Do you use the convert to production functionality? Never used it before and feeling a bit intimidated.
Yeah, that's the one I wanted to come back to. Bravo, Kaylin. Yeah, I have used it. Now, keep in mind, depending on what licensing plan you have, you might only have one production instance. So you might not want to convert your Sandbox instance to production if you already have production. But it's not scary, I promise. It's fine. You'll be fine. If you're in the scenario where you need to take a Sandbox environment and maybe fix some mismanaged environments, you can totally do it. It's something that you have to do sometimes. If you're uncomfortable with it, if you've never done it before, you can certainly reach out to me or any partners that you have or anybody else in this chat, because it sounds like we have some really great solution management experts and people that are really good at system adminning here. I'm sure any one of us would be able to kind of walk you through it. In fact, if you want, we can do a screen share if you want to do it for your first time. Happy to help.
Okay. Tony Galata. Does auto number always have a dash in it like that, or can you remove?
Great question. It does. If you're going to use that out of the box column type, yes, it will have the dash. If you need a little more control over that is, I see a great conversation happening about managed and unmanaged. I'm getting distracted by it. Sorry. So yeah, if you need to create an auto number that doesn't have that hyphen in it, that's a really good use case for the custom way, either using JavaScript or using the XRM toolbox for that. Kaylin, you can find the next question, but I want to talk about something real quick. So Angelica's got some really good stuff in the chat if you haven't been checking it out. So some other limitations that I should have mentioned too. If you delete an unmanaged production, it kind of disregards all the customizations there. So that's a little dangerous. Kat's got some more stuff here too. If you have a flow or business rule that references any type of entity record, you need to adjust it once it's in production, and a managed solution will not allow you to do that. That's a really good point too. So you're starting to see why there's such a big debate about managed versus unmanaged, because all of the stuff you're putting in this chat is true. And there's not an easy way to say everything should be managed or everything should be unmanaged. That's why there's both, right? Because there's a good use case for both options happening. Sorry, Kaylin, you're up. Do you have anything else in there?
From Debbie Galai. I cannot pronounce any of these people's last names.
You can just do their first names. I'm sure they don't mind.
Okay. What about convert to Sandbox form production?
What about convert to Sandbox?
I found that. I don't know if that's a question. I really don't know.
No, I think I understand that. So, Debbie, are you talking about converting a Sandbox into a production instance? I think.
It's one of the newer things.
I see it. I was hoping she'd write in yes or no, but that's okay. So yeah, you can convert a Sandbox to production. You can convert production to Sandbox. You can play around. Just be careful if you're not familiar with that. With great power comes great responsibility. I think Chad said that in his session yesterday, and it's a great superhero theme. And you're all superheroes because you're system admins. You have all of the power. So you can do all of these things. Should you do it, or how should you do it? Thank you, Debbie, for clarifying. No, production to Sandbox. You can. Yes, absolutely. Do we have anything else, KK?
I cannot find many questions.
It's okay. Kaylin goes by KK, if you haven't noticed before. Kaylin, I really like the emojis that you picked with your name. It's making me feel like I missed out on something by not sticking some emojis there. Debbie was afraid to push the button. I know, it's scary. Just, you have backups. Are you online or on premise, Debbie? I'm assuming you're online, which might not be a good assumption. But if you're online, you have backups. So if anything goes terribly wrong, you can just restore a backup and it'll be okay. If you're on premise, take a backup before you do that. And then everything will also be okay. Like KK Slider. I don't know what KK Slider is. Do you know what KK Slider is? Online. Cool. So Debbie, you should be fine. Okay. Can you tell me the pitfalls of using multi-select? How will they harm me? Where will they not work? That was an earlier question that was kind of by Karen too. I think we covered that. It could really harm you in your future queries that you want to make. Yeah, Caitlin, that's adorable. So
I don't know what you're talking about.
It was a cute Lego character from Animal Crossing.
I wasn't doing that.
And Debbie also put in here, you don't use relevance search. I mean, you can. I just spun up a demo environment and was using kind of a vanilla out of the box one. So I categorized search in there. You can use whatever one makes sense for you. What's up, man? You have a question?
Tony said from Animal Crossing.
I don't know what Animal Crossing is.
KK
Clearly.
It's the thing my Nintendo Switch's case is based off of.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool.
Yes, funny story about that. So when I was naming myself in Animal Crossings, I tried to put KK, but I didn't realize that the E didn't go in because I was up to max characters, and now I'm KK.
KK. Well, funny story. You could fix that if that were a Dynamics 365 system simply by increasing the text box. So you could fix that easily if you were working on Dynamics 365 or a Power Up. Does anyone else have any questions? I think we have there's a question regarding, sorry, Caitlin, do you want to read it?
Where?
It just came in from Nancy.
Oh, regarding what about convert to Sandbox from production, I understand that is something no possible, but I think we can make a copy from prod and use it as a sandbox.
Yeah, Nancy, you're 100% correct. If you're going to go from production into a sandbox, that's exactly what you would do. You would make a copy, and then it would be your sandbox. If your environments are really, really mismatched, if maybe you weren't following some of the best practices we talked about at the beginning of the session today, that would be the best way to kind of get everything back in order. So if you maybe aren't following some of those solution management best practices, don't worry, you can. And that's how you can start. You take all your customizations out of dev, make sure you push everything you need into your live production environment, and then just take a copy of production and make that your new sandbox and just leave the rest behind. And then from that moment forward, you will be a super system admin and you will follow all of those awesome best practices. Best practices are always there for a reason, even if sometimes we don't like what some of them are, like managed solutions. Any other questions? I think we're running out of time. Our customers don't follow solution best practices. Ours do. A lot of them are here today, and they're fantastic. On a serious note, every time I do train a system admin or I do a session, usually I would take something like what we're talking about today, the content here, and do a full day training and break it up over multiple days. So we really did squeeze it in tight today. But I spend a lot more time on the solution management best practices with our customers that we have because it's super important and it will make their lives a heck of a lot easier in the future. All right, I think we're all set. Thank you guys so much. Kaylin, thank you for being my moderator. I think you did an awesome job. I mean, you got through 57 minutes and we're just now seeing Lego. So awesome job, Kaylin. Virtual high five. And thank you everybody so much for attending my session. Enjoy the rest of DynamicsCon. If you want to chat at all, feel free to reach out to me. I'm at CRM Heidi, Heidi@reenhance.com. Or you can click on speakers over there. Over there. I'm backwards. And set a meeting with me. I'll be around the rest of the week. Thank you. Say bye, Kaylin.